Hey, what's up, guys? It's Fizzy Fox to be here, and I'm back at it again with another YouTube video. And today we are going to be dropping our top ranked Pac-Man World games from worst to best. And honestly speaking, I am so excited to be dropping my picks. Honestly speaking, I just wanted to make this very clear. This is very, very opinionated. This is not by fact. Whatever game is your preference, I do not mind at all. You know what I'm saying? We all have our different, opinions over time. It's just that, over time I felt like, since I'm older now and I get to have my own opinion on these things and I have like a solid opinion, it's not just based on like, oh, if I, because our opinions change when we play these games again. So I wound up playing all the Pac-Man worlds again. And honestly, I have a lot to say. A lot has changed and we're going to get right on into it. And we're going to also talk about the repack games as well to also dissect whether or not if I feel like personally those games are also worth it to buy too. So just stay tuned. And before anything, guys, don't forget to click that notification bell so you guys can be notified every time I upload. And don't forget to like, subscribe, share. Now let's hop right on into this video. So I would have to say my least favorite Pac-Man World game would have to be Pac-Man World 3. I know to a lot of people, even as a childhood classic, there's a lot of things wrong with the game. Sadly, as much as I love it and, I don't know why I used to think this was like the best game ever, but, as time has progressed, opinions change and everybody, feels kind of different. And I just don't like the game as much as I used to, you know what I'm saying? And now looking back at it, there's a lot of issues with it. I didn't really have problems with the story, but, since being a Pac-Man fan and, knowing that it's a part of the Pac-Man World trilogy and, knowing that it's a part of the Pac-Man World series, why not give it a shot type stuff. But, I just honestly feel like that is going down to like just the characters, the fact that, I know they tried something different, but, it was a lot of issues, like platforming issues, in my opinion, a lot of things going on with, certain stages. And I'm just not really a big fan of the direction anyway that they were trying to take because, coming from the previous game, it was just more entertaining in my opinion. And Pac-Man World 2 just had a lot more to offer. It was a more perfected version of, the Pac-Man World games and stuff. So, it's like they improved on what they, lacked on in Pac-Man World 1 and brought everything that they, all the good shit to part 2. But, they just lacked in part 3. And sadly, being a Pac-Man World fan and a Pac-Man fan in general, that is probably one of my least favorite Pac-Man World games out of all the entries. Coming from a game that released November 15th, 2005, I don't really expect much from a game in that time period anyway. So I would have to rank it my least favorite. So guys, let's hop right on into the next Pac-Man World game. Okay, guys, my next favorite Pac-Man World game would have to be, and this was a hard one, would have to be Pac-Man World 2. And it's because even with the Pac-Man World 2 repack, which is a very good game too, which I highly request to get and buy, I just have a lot to say about how I stand on the game now. I just feel like it's a little bland opposed to after seeing, because it definitely has some competition now that, the Pac-Man World repack has came out, the original Pac-Man World repack. So it gives me like different mixed opinions because it's like, dang, it made Pac-Man World kind of like the very first one kind of like better than the rest. With the repack games and stuff like that, it kind of gives me like a harder decision. But Pac-Man World 2 would have to be here only because though it had perfected a lot of things from the first Pac-Man World game, it still, has a weird kind of blandness to it, and it still doesn't have that intenseness that Pac-Man World 1 has held without really pretty much trying. The stages were also pretty fun, though, in general, though, in Pac-Man World 2. I'll give it that. I'll give it a lot of pointers for actually perfecting a lot of things, and I like the platforming definitely way better than 3. It's a lot of good stuff, a lot of fun memories I have playing with it, with my friends and stuff like that growing up. And, it just reminds me of it's definitely a comfort game, one of the more comfort games. I don't know how to really rank that, higher than Pac-Man World 1. anyway, because it's just more like, there was just a lot more in-depth story details, and I just, I didn't like the fact that some stages in Pac-Man World 2 was a little bit unfinished as well. I did love the skating stage and the fact that we get to go underwater and stuff like that, but they were very like glitchy and weird. And I do love the fact that they pushed their limits with the game, and they were showing us a lot of new differences and a lot of possibilities. So, just for them starting a lot of new things, and having the 3D Pac-Man, come to life a lot more, and for us to even see that again, but in a more, perfected version, I'm gonna have to give them their credit where it's due, and that's why I'm gonna have to rank that as my second favorite. Or I would have to say the one of the best. I would say the part one and two would have to be my favorite out of all of them, but this was definitely a hard decision to see which one took the top or took the number one spot. So let's hop right on into the next Pac-Man World game. Okay, and so what takes my top number one spot is Pac-Man World, which was released on October 15th, 1999. I would have to say, for a game that came out like over 25 years ago, this game still surprises me and still is just as entertaining as when I first played this game. Releasing for the original PlayStation 1 at the time, this was very, very, very good. It was good, like one of the best platforming games probably of the time period. Around that time too, I had a lot of time to sit back and really analyze and take my time. And as much as I love Pac-Man World 2, and as much as, probably a few years ago, I probably would have had a different opinion, like I said before, um, this has a lot of this had me thinking a lot, only because of the simple fact that Pac-Man World Repack is a thing now, and it literally demolishes the Pac-Man World 2 Repack, only because nothing can really replicate the Pac-Man World 2 original, and that's just how I stand on it, personally, from a personal gaming standpoint, and for me having my personal preference. But I would have to say that yes, I do still recommend you guys, buy the Pac-Man World 1 and 2 repack, because those games are so fucking amazing. Like, oh my gosh, they actually stuck by the material, and they actually, incorporated some really fun mechanics. And I do feel like, they did perfect a lot of stuff, that they did need to perfect in the original. But, like I said, I stand where I stand. And that's just my personal opinion. I do feel like Pac-Man World 2 original is better than the Pac-Man World 2 repack, but the Pac-Man World repack and the original, they just stand very tall, you know what I'm saying, in the game. And I, highly recommend you guys buy and purchase those games, because they are so fucking amazing. Oh my gosh. And I'm so sorry. It's just so crazy how, at first, I'm saying to myself, like, but then it just, maybe I should put Pac-Man World 2 at this number one spot. But, I'm glad that I rethought a lot, and I was just like, wait a minute. I spend most of my hours playing Pac-Man World Repack and enjoying the platform and the gaming and the colors and the fact that, they just really polished this game and made it so much better than the original. And also, the original is also good too. And I also recommend you guys check out the original as well if you guys want to see the very first version of the game. So, honestly speaking, guys, this was my top ranked Pac-Man World games. From my worst to best. And I honestly feel like, this was a very, very short one, but this one's one that was needed, because honestly speaking, if they ever was to make a Pac-Man World 4, I just want them to know, like, listen, stick to the main material, do not change much, but just perfect and add. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't say take away, but just add to it and make it a better game. And that's pretty much it. So, guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, share. Don't forget to click that notification bell so you guys can be notified every time that I upload. And deuces.